Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. That is the R in the RK Stumblingbear, and I'm a reader and a writer. And I am back today to talk about my favorite robots in science fiction. I know in my birthday wrap-up video I talked about I was looking for where are my robots, and then I'm like, you know what? Let's just talk about my favorite robots. Also, I saw a video over by Penny from the Paperback Cat. She did a favorite science fiction artificial intelligence video, included robots in hers. I divided mine out. So I thought that this would be fun to do my own version. And I have 11, but I also have 2 honorable mentions. And my first honorable mention is Helva from The Ship Who Sang by Anne McCaffrey. And the reason why this is an honorable mention is because Helva is actually a human consciousness. In this premise, Helva was born into a disabled body that was unable to move in any way. I'm not quite sure what the term is, but her mind was intact, and technology and society at this time was able to help her mind express itself by connecting with technology. And as a kid, taught her how to use different machines, and eventually gave her the option of becoming a consciousness for a spaceship. Her body still exists, but really she controls the ship. And that's why it's an honorable mention, because some people might consider it a robot situation, and others might be like, no, this is a tool for somebody. And then my other honorable mention is Brianna from Memoirs by a Synth by Lee Sanders, because a synth is a synthetic being who has been created, but otherwise, for all intents and purposes, is basically a human. They still need to eat. They, can die if you shoot them. They still sleep. All those things. So then for me, it was more like, would I consider this to be like a human that has been genetically altered kind of situation, or an actual robot? For me, it was kind of hard for me to decide, so I decided just to make it an honorable mention. All right, so jumping in with number 11, I have the robots from August Kitco and the mechas from space. I don't necessarily remember the names of the mechas, but they are sentient in their own right. They need a writer or a pilot in order to unlock all their abilities, and I like how they communicate with their writers or pilots by music. Each one is very different, and I thought that was just a very, very fun concept. Coming in at number 10, I have Barrow from Velocity Weapon by Megan O'Keefe. This is a sentient spaceship. I am considering spaceships as robots in this instance, or on this list at least. And Barrow is a ship that's having a crisis of faith. One of the main characters, the sister main character, wakes up on Barrow, and Barrow's told her that he's just woken her up after she's been in space for many, many years, and everybody that she knows has been dead for a couple of generations. And then somebody else shows up on the ship. Not one of the POV characters. And it's interesting to see how Barrow has their own needs and wants, and how they are manipulating the female character to help them get what they want. Coming in at number 9, I have Mbot from Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Spensa, in the course of this book, finds a cave that has a ship that has a sentient AI who is snarky. You can very much see that snarky AI is a more recent phenomenon, and I'm pretty sure that Mbot is one of those forerunners. Mbot needs Spensa but has their own agenda, their own needs and wants. Coming in at number 8, I have Terry from Our Lady of the Articulates, or Artilicks, I never know how you say that, by Andrew Gilsmith. And Terry is a robot who becomes possessed at the beginning of this book. There's a big question of whether an apparition happened, a religious apparition happened for robots, and if now robots have souls. And we have some interesting conversations with Terry about art and creativity and whether they're tools or can be people in their own right. And so I really enjoy getting to know Terry before Terry gets possessed again. At number 7, I have 812-3 from An Unnatural Life by Aaron Wagner. This is a story where the main character is like a lawyer and has been called in to represent or defend 812-3, who has been accused of murder. And 812-3 is a sentient robot who was working, I think, in a mine. And you have a lot of conversations about robots and ownership and robots and freedom, and can robots be manipulated, and how this is more of a thoughtful sci-fi read that I don't think gets enough love or recognition in the sci-fi readership. And number 6, I have Lance Bishop from Aliens Bishop. And I know I have the book in the house, but my husband has a meeting, so I'm just going to show a picture of this one. And, AI from the Aliens and Aliens 3 universe. I like that he is stalwart and he knows what community he wants to be a part of. And he has morals and integrity. I like that. Coming in number 5, I have Mosscap from A Psalm of the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. And Mosscap is just this sweet robot that has come out of the woods and nature to ask, what do humans want? And they are meeting Sibling Dex while Sibling Dex wants to go listen to crickets. In this society that Becky Chambers has created, it's kind of like we've reached a sort of utopian where robots had become sentient, and then they asked us to leave them alone. And they've gone off into nature, and humankind has actually granted that. And they've built a society where they only use things for what they need, not for overconsumption. So the question of what do humans want when Mosscap comes back isn't so easy. And you find out more about that in the second book. So coming in at number 4, I have Lovelace from A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. This is the companion novel to The Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet, where in that book you have Lovey. Well, Lovey eventually becomes Lovelace, but Lovelace is very different than Lovey. I don't really want to spoil what happens in the first book, but in the second book, Lovelace is really coming into who she is and accepting herself as a sentient being who does not have to be beholden to someone who she used to be. I think that's the best way I can describe it without completely spoiling what happens in the first book. So number 3, I have You Sexy Thing from You Sexy Thing by Kent Rambo. This is another sentient ship. I find I like my sentient ships. And this one has great personality. The main characters in this book are from a restaurant, and they're trying to get off a station that has been breached and is going to be destroyed, and one of their customers is like, oh, hey, yeah, let's go to my ship. It's You Sexy Thing, gives them a code phrase. And then when they give that code phrase to the ship lets them on and then is like, and now you're stealing the ship and we're going to take you to this criminal planet. Because that's part of the coding that the ship has to follow. But then you get to really find that the ship is very heartwarming and really just wants to make its owner happy and take care of people, especially cooking. And it's really very sweet. So coming in at number 2, and I'm sure everybody has been waiting to know where this is going to fall, I have Murderbot from the Murderbot Diaries. We get a sentient robot who has anxiety issues, wants to be left alone, watch its media, doesn't want people to know that it has hacked its governor module, and basically gets caught out when it does its job a little too well, probably, shall we say. This is a very fun story series. It's on its second arc now. The first 4 novellas is an arc to itself. There's another novella which came out after the first novel, but chronologically time would come before it. And then from like the novels, they are kind of like another arc that's going on. If you haven't tried Murderbot yet, I always say try the first one, All Systems Red. You'll know after this book if you want to continue or not, but this is a complete story in and by itself. You would be fine if you chose to stop after this one. And that means coming in at number 1, my favorite robot AI is Breck from Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. And there might be some people who are like, but Breck is in a human body. True, that human consciousness no longer exists because of what they did to prepare the body to be an ancillary for the Justice of Torin, who is Breck's bigger AI personality. So I get to, it stands that Breck is still an AI robot, basically. And Breck is on a revenge mission. That's what this first book is. That's really what the trilogy is about, but the first book more so than the other 2. So those are my favorite robots in science fiction. I would love to know what your favorite robots are. And if you agree with me on any of these, let me know down below. Thank you and have a great day.